What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fye and Eric Sheetshaber. We're going to be talking through this two-game MLB slate. Quickly, I'll touch on Sunday. I had a really good day, obviously, yesterday. Really kind of mad at myself because I talked in Discord about the 1v1 swap that would have actually given me a chance in the tournament. Now, it was a tricky situation because I felt like I was if you're playing for $1 million or you're going to get like 20,000 is different than if you're playing for 200,000, but you could still get 20 or 30 or 50,000 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was deciding between, it was the Najee Harris, and I knew other people had Harris behind me, but I could have gone 1v1 for Dowdle. And I talked about doing it, and I did it in all my other tournaments, but not in that one. And I felt a little angry because look, hindsight's 2020, but it, would have made an extra 50,000, would have finished second for 70K. So look, projection wise, I think that it was almost double. Najee Harris was projected like double over Dowdle. But I think I should have probably pulled the trigger to give myself to win a tournament when everybody's got these other guys left, but it's a defense and a flex. So it's either going to be Pickens or Harris. There's no way anybody was playing Dowdle who was 0.5% owned. So would have been nice, but still a great day. Happy to keep the momentum going. I think I've been on a little bit of a hot streak with both MLB and NFL lately. So hoping to keep that going. Sheets, you chopped the showdown last night. Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into this later.
Yeah, and the FanDuel showdown, I seem to do a good job chopping that thing, which is good. I also did very well in the DraftKings tournaments and the bigger buy-ins. I cashed pretty nicely in the Power Sweep and the Wildcat and the Spy.
Nice.
So that was good, and made a little money in the Millie Maker too. Yeah, I did really nice. I had a good bunch of those Bengals, which kind of carried the weight for me. It was either doing that or the Baltimore like you did, like with Lamar, whatever.
Yeah.
So I got there with the Bengals. Ready to talk about the baseball slate. So it's and we're gonna do the showdown later tonight.
Yep.
And yeah. So the thing about I had a couple of questions. So the 2-game slates in baseball. I have these questions every single time. Two questions. Number one, should you consider or whatever? Should you use pitchers against batters? And number two, should you use relievers? Now, in a showdown, the answers to both those are very obvious, right? Yes and yes.
Right.
In a 3-game slate, I think the answer is also kind of obvious that you shouldn't, that you probably shouldn't for both. I have a feeling though that you should probably use hitters against pitchers. And what I think is that you're whether you should use relievers or not, honestly, depends on whether you know what relievers to use. I don't think you just blindly just like plow relievers into this like you can with Showdown. But I think if you have some kind of sense for who these guys are going to go to, then I think that if you're a no baller or whatever, I think you can squeeze a reliever in there. I didn't try yet. And I have to see what the price are. Like, are any of these relievers are there relievers even in the 2-game slates?
Yeah,
they're cheap or not really?
You can use them. They should be all 4K, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that because I didn't get to them. My argument against the relievers is, they're 4K. These pitchers are not going to put up. There should be a couple good outings between these 4 guys today.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be hard to make up the points from a reliever. Now there's certain situations where it's totally viable. I think especially when you're talking about potential closeout games, then you can certainly play the long reliever guys. And I would even say you could do it on 3-game slates sometimes.
Right. Okay.
On this particular one, it's a little harder because you look at all of them actually look like guys we would consider using on a full slate in a regular game. You know what I mean? And Skubal, they're down 1-0, but they're going to give him a leash. You've got kind of a situation where it's going to be hard for me to find myself using the relievers. The other question you asked for me, I have no problem with it whatsoever. For example, in my biggest buy-in lineup right now, I'm using Matt Boyd as a pitcher, but I'm using Ibanez as a value piece at second base. But again, it's a value piece. He's 2,800. He allows me to get to the other stuff I want to, and he's the only piece I'm using against. He also correlates in some way because he's going to come out of the game the second a righty comes in. So he's only going to hit as long as Boyd is still pitching. So in a funny way, him being the guy who gets the hits off Boyd, for example, even if he puts up 0, it's still fine. but I like the idea of trying to do it with a cheaper player or somebody with a high stolen base upside.
Do you agree with my assessment of the ownership and the pitchers? Like I have Skubal just like way above everybody else, and then the other three just kind of close to one another. Like I have like Skubal 70, Rodon 47, Reagan's 44, and Boyd 37. Do you agree with that, or do you think like Boyd's going to be a little lower owned? Maybe you think Skubal might not quite get up to 70. What do you think?
I think Skubal is going to be the highest owned, and I will be underweight Skubal and play more Cleveland today, just because of the nature of how these things work. I think Boyd is going to be more popular than Reagan's will be. But I'm finding Boyd and actually I'm finding Boyd and Reagan's as being my main two for my bigger buy-ins. Now I'm a little more spread out when it comes to the lottery and whatnot, or and all that. But I personally would like to be underweight a little bit the Skubal. Now he's in my big buy-in on FanDuel. He's my only pitcher that I'm using over there. But on DraftKings, I'm definitely on the side of trying to play more Reagan's and Boyd, and I'm still iffy on where I stand with Rodon, because if I'm going to play Reagan's, I don't want to stack the Yankees. I would like to get to some Kansas City stacks. I feel like if they were playing on a regular slate today, if there was any hitters I would want to take up a pitcher on this slate, if it was a full, like let's say it was 7 games or 9 games or something, I would feel comfortable playing some of the Kansas City against Rodon pretty comfortably. That's where I stand.
As far as the hitting goes, I mean, I can see it looks as though the Yankee game is just going to be the higher owned game, with as far as the hitting goes. And I'm looking at, I think, both sides, but the guys you mentioned for Detroit, you mentioned Ibanez for openers, and a couple of these guys are pretty good one-offs. I think Perez is pretty good. Perez just looks like pretty low owned, or lower owned actually.
Yeah.
Verling. So I guess DraftKings. But the thing is, Detroit's not going to be that unpopular, because I think Boyd's going to be the weakest of the pitchers. Boy, it's going to be a tough. Obviously, you don't have to stack or anything like that, but it's going to be interesting to see what people do here. Now, here's another dumb question: There's no reason to play guys off the bench, right?
So, like, I would if I thought that like Boyd was only going to go 3 innings or something like that, or if I was worried about him, something like some situation like that. So if you play anybody off the bench, I would actually try to do it in a stack, but I didn't find myself getting to that either today.
What about Showdown? Maybe
Showdown, absolutely, I would consider,
really?
And that would be the lefties for Detroit, guys like Colt Keith, who will come out, But you wouldn't want to play Colt Keith and Boyd in the same lineup, because you're counting on Boyd coming out of the game so Keith gets to bat.
Wait a minute. You're counting on Boyd coming out of the game.
If you're playing Keith, you're counting on Boyd being out of the game.
I keep thinking Boyd's on Detroit for some reason.
Because he was. That's the thing.
I know. That's why I keep thinking that. So you're saying, okay, so if Boyd comes out, then Keith can get in there. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's an interesting rule. Max 1, Boyd, Keith. That's
yeah, that kind of thing. But he would be I think the main one, because he's got the power upside also. And that's what I'm finding. So,
what about leaving money on the table?
I think it makes plenty of sense today. I didn't go out of my way, but I have some lineups in the lottery that have 1,000 left on the table, 2,000 left. Actually, I have 2,000 left on the table in a couple lineups. So I'm totally good with it. On my hand build, I found that I kind of needed the money because I wanted to try and get to some of the spend ups. My favorite of which being Witt and the Yankee guys, obviously, and Ramirez. So those would be the 4 that you try to get at least one of those guys in my opinion. So I did not have the money to hang on to. I had to go with it. But I like the idea of again, just differentiating. I would try. It's weird because if you don't fully stack, then you are going to be playing pitchers against your hitter, no matter what, So I tried in the lottery to actually go out of my way to do that a little bit, just to make sure I didn't have, not because it had everything as 5-3 and 4-4s for me that it built, because it was making sure you weren't facing your pitcher. So I got away from that, and I made it so I could face, you could definitely take hitters against your pitcher. And I just think that's just a good way to get a little bit different.
Yeah, when I run my all my stuff or whatever, I'm really getting like all this Kansas City.
Yeah, I like it. That's my favorite of the if I just raw whatever, right? I think that they make the most sense. And I mean, I say one other thing about the Scooble thing. Like, I know it's not, it's a small slate, and he's the best strikeout pitcher on the slate, and all. I mean, he's the best pitcher on the slate, but he's probably the best pitcher in baseball right now. But Cleveland has faced him before. They have basically been good against him, not like amazing, but they're familiar. They're in division. They are, in general, they don't strike out much. So I like the idea of going out of my way to being overexposed to Cleveland. And in doing that, I had to give myself a little less Yankees. So Cleveland and KC are the main teams I'm using, even though I like the Yankees and KC the best, just because the ownership with the Yankees is going to be very high. It's always going to be very high, by the way. For the whole playoffs, I think we'll see it every day. The Yankees will be the most owned team.
Meanwhile, what's going on out there in freaking Los Angeles? I thought California, everybody's all chilled. And
what happened? I don't know, man.
San Diego too. I mean, everybody's supposed to have like low blood pressure out there. Nobody cares about the games. Nobody, whatever. And now they're killing each other out there.
I know it was not a good look last night at all. And it's pretty ridiculous. And it happened the night before too. There was just so many guys in the same section. Like, and partly there's Profar and Tatis are both out there talking shit. Tatis was insulting some guy's girlfriend in the thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's gross on both sides, but like the Dodgers, like, come on guys, like don't give us a bad name. Like, it's ridiculous. It was an unbelievably fun game to go to the other night, I have to say.
I'm sure.
It was just an absolute ball. And it felt like the energy was completely out of the stadium until Ohtani hit that ball, and it woke everybody up.
In the showdown in the first game, I'll just show you guys. I'm not showing you. I mean, I'm definitely getting to some relievers, and I am playing both showdowns, but not as many as I usually do. Like, I'm getting like nothing, like 7% of like Vest, Clace, or whatever, and Walters, whoever they are.
Mm-hmm.
And am I getting any of the captain? No, I'm not getting any of the captain. Thank God. And I'm not getting any relievers.
Yeah, I'm not getting as many relievers as I normally would, and it's partly because the hitters are cheap enough, and the relievers are mostly one-inning relievers. Clase would be the one highest strikeout upside, whatever. He's the one I have the most of. But I'm a little bit less on. I'm playing both showdowns as well, and for so long you told me that because you get stuck in playing the same game, and it's not just you're playing the same sport. It's like you're playing the exact same structure. I'm playing full slates only, all these things. But getting into all this showdown stuff, I think it's like got my brain working better.
Right? I'm not kidding. You know what I mean? Like, it's true.
Yeah, I feel like that's the biggest turning point I noticed when I started playing these showdowns. All of a sudden, not just that I've been winning lately, but I feel clearer with my thoughts because I've gone through all those thinking when I dealt with the showdown stuff. So I actually like to build the showdown lineups first and then build my other ones afterwards.
But that's the thing also about showdown. It just gives you like the sense of like all the possibilities that there are. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just so many things can happen, and it's just a different way of looking at sports, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go back to that, I do think that now that I look at it, I do have a little bit of the I do have a little bit of the Keith in that showdown. Assuming that he's out, but again, I have that not with Boyd. That's my one thing. But yeah, it's been really helpful, man. It really does change everything.
I saw you when you took that thing down. You didn't have Adam. Who's the guy?
Chavez.
Right.
Yeah, and he went 2 innings, so it was like a bonus reliever.
That's like the nuts.
I mean, yeah, exactly. But that's what he is. He was a former starting pitcher, so if you're going to play one, he was the one I wanted to be on. So I actually manually put him as my highest owned of the relievers that day.
Did you say you were playing? Are you playing FanDuel?
I'm playing FanDuel for the 2-gamer. Yeah, I did use Scooble over there, and just because I wanted to get a little bit different. But it's Scooble with obviously it's going to end up Detroit, KC, and New York mostly. I didn't actually end up using any hitters against Scooble in that build over there, but I wouldn't mind if I ended up there. And we still don't have a lineup for the later games, so for the Yankee games.
In general, again, it's definitely late swap, definitely, you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Like if you really don't get anything right in the first game, I mean, then it's all the end for you, really. Then it's like,
Right.
relievers and whatever else you can come up with.
Absolutely.
Pinch hitters that have home run upside, guys like that,
Right. Leave a couple thousand on the table. Just play the 6, 7, 8, 9 guys.
something like that.
That. That's really what I've been thinking about that too today. But I love it. I love these baseball slates. I wish we had them. I wish they treated them almost like they do the Thanksgiving slate, where there's and the Christmas slate, like where there's like big tournaments and stuff. Because I feel like there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. And it's really like a little bit of a it's work if you go through it the whole day. And you like to use SaberSim to update yours, and I do sometimes. But for my higher buy-ins, I always like to manually do it. Mm-hmm. But it's just it's fun. It's especially because I think on Wednesday we've got a 4-game slate again. So hopefully they'll put a big tournament out there that day.
By the way, for those of you that are wondering, I don't really do any live lineup builds for especially the FanDuel football showdowns, but because I've chopped like 3 of them so far this season.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you what I've been doing with that. I haven't been doing geo mean filter and anything like that. This is really just kind of primitive, but just what's worked for me. I just ran everything normal with the Sims as normal, and then I left 500 on the table. Mm-hmm. That's what I've done. But the funny thing is that I didn't really need to. Almost all my lineups are leave on FanDuel and Showdown, leave like 2,000 on the table somehow. Mm-hmm. I guess that's the way it works. But
yeah,
that's what's been. And listen, 13,000. That's like that. That's not that many dupes in there. That's a big hit. For a FanDuel
hit, yeah.
FanDuel 5-man freaking Showdown slate. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Right.
Stupid structure.
I'm actually playing more of that Showdown on FanDuel tonight too. Maybe because you motivated me, but. I actually really like this football slate, so I thought there was a lot of ways to get different. I could see I could see like 8 guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that. That's a crazy slate. I mean, you have it's back to Mahomes and 75 receivers. You know what I mean?
Right. Could be anything.
You just don't know. I mean,
right.
It's I didn't even realize that. And then you got Cedric Wilson. You got all kinds of stupid guys showing up.
Yeah.
And then you have a real chalky Juwan Jennings. For the Saints, I think. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking forward to that one. You're gonna need a lot of combinations to get what you really want.
Yeah. It's a lot. Just to touch on it really quick, just because I thought that I really think that it is a high variance, and also there's no Taysom Hill out there, so you have all the backup tight ends for New Orleans. We don't know who the receiver is going to be for Kansas City. Kareem Hunt just came back out of nowhere, and now we're assuming he's going to be the man, but maybe it goes back to Carson Steele. Like there's just a lot of
who knows?
Yeah. And a high variance game. And also I love New Orleans tonight. I just think they're 5.5 point underdogs. Like the Chiefs don't beat anybody by more than 3 points in the last couple of years.
Remember I remember the first time we saw even Isaiah Pacheco, like nobody knew who he was.
Right.
People were expecting like some guy, I think it was Edwards-Helaire or something like that. Mm-hmm. People were expecting somebody like that to be like the guy. And then all of a sudden this guy, like nobody literally knew who he was. They put him in there and he got like 30 carries or something like that. Like, so don't bet against it.
Yeah.
What did you think of the football games yesterday?
I thought it was better. It was nice to see like some scoring and some action, and it reversed, and the running backs were not the build. You know what I mean? You did not want that necessarily the 3 running backs. You had the big chase game and the big game with. It's too bad because there was a couple spots where I mean, Zay Flowers really, and that would have won. I would have won the tournament even if I did leave my lineup the same. Zay Flowers
here's a very legitimate question.
Yeah.
Like, is Washington good?
Yeah.
They are, right?
Yeah, I don't think
that's not like a joke. I mean, like
nothing smoke and mirrorsy about it to me. And I've said it before. I've been 2 for 2 so far, but I don't know. Caleb Williams, I still believe is going to be really good. He's been really good, but I personally like Jaden Daniels better coming into this draft. And last year I liked Stroud better than Bryce Young, and so far I'm 2 for 2 on those ones. But I really think that what he's doing. It's just that nothing seems gimmicky at all. They're so good offensively. The only thing that's going to hurt them is their defense is definitely sketchy.
Oh, it's just ridiculous, but
yeah, but their offense.
I'm running teams in my head. Like legitimately, who's better in the NFC? I mean,
I don't know who.
Minnesota, maybe.
Maybe
they didn't look so hot in the second half yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's really close. I mean, right now I would say that they're right there, but like, well, things will happen. The season will sort of figure it. I think the Lions are going to end up emerging as
Lions. Yeah, I totally forgot about the Lions. I mean,
I got the 49ers.
Yep.
I got the what's it called? The Arizona money line bet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you got and you have the Bucks can play sometimes.
Yep.
It's
they all can play sometimes. Like Philadelphia looks good sometimes. The Bucks look good sometimes. The Green Bay looks good sometimes. To be honest with you, the Rams are 1-4. They're going to have Nakua, and they have a bye week. They get Nakua and Cup back, and I think the Rams will be the team to be. I think the Rams will be the best team in the NFC from that point on. But it'll be hard to get in the playoffs because they can only lose.
And then you have. Oh, they're here. Hang on, do you need me? Oh, shit. See if she can handle it. And the AFC, I mean, I guess it's funny. Like Cincinnati, they just kind of like troll around saying, "Oh, we'll get it together. We'll get there eventually." But next thing you know, they're going to be like 1-8. You know what I mean? It's
right.
I mean, that was like a ridiculous performance by that coach in overtime. I mean,
yeah,
they choked whatever towards they got the stop at the end of the fourth. I thought for sure that the Ravens were going to waltz in and score a touchdown.
Me too.
But they got the stop, so they forced overtime. And then they got unlucky. They lost the coin toss. And then they got handed like a game-ending fumble by the Ravens. And the Ravens could not stop their passing game the whole day.
And they didn't throw once.
So what they did is they run the ball into the middle 3 times for a 54-yard field goal attempt.
It was so stupid. But it was also, I mean, to their credit, one thing that they're probably one of the better 1-4 teams in recent history. Their offense,
I get it,
really good.
But I mean, but eventually you're 1-7.
Right, right, exactly.
But Baltimore's obviously strong. Who else is good in the
I think Baltimore is honestly the team I think is the best. They just have these weird lapses. Like that Raiders game I'm just throwing out. That was just bizarre. They were up by they just game managed their way out of the win. They had
they definitely did.
The toe on the line and against the Chiefs. I'll overlook that one. I do think that they're the best team. Other than I think Kansas City still could be considered the best even without Rice.
It's got to be Baltimore's got to be the best team right now. But then again, I mean, listen. The Bills are all weird and kooky. You know what I mean?
I don't believe in the Bills.
I know, but I mean, like, don't get them on the wrong day either. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
the reason I don't believe in them is because they look all great against these other teams, and then you pick them up against the other teams that can actually play, and they just look like they're in a whole different.
I'll tell you a team that could beat Baltimore is like the Jets, like some team that could just like slog it out and turn it into an ugly game or something.
Some stupid team like that, yeah. That's true. And the Chiefs are the one that seem to have Baltimore's number, but it's been very fluky the way that they've barely beaten them a bunch of times in a row, or a bunch of times in big spots.
Hey, but Caleb Williams is getting there. Bo Nix is getting there. Like these guys are. Guys are getting there.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing how good the rookies actually have been. I mean, Bo Nix has been the worst of them, and he's still like, I mean, they're 3-2. Like, anybody thinks Denver was going to be 3-2 right now? It's like I don't know.
I'll tell you who's legit bad is that Raider coach, by the way.
Yeah, he's a bad game coach. It's a shame. He's the kind of guy you want to have on your coaching staff.
Yeah, you want him as your defensive coordinator or something.
Right, exactly. You don't want him out there trying to script.
You don't want him running offense, unfortunately.
No, it's not a good idea.
But yeah, even they played with Hart for a little while, but then Denver just freaking rolled on them after. It's crazy. All right, I guess I'm gonna get going. I'll see you guys. I'll see you 6:00, 6:30, something like that.
6:30.
All right, I'll see you then.
All right, buddy. See you later. Good luck to everybody.